Hello and welcome to Beyond. I'm Tiffany Hopkins and I have a special guest today. I have my friend and neighbor, Stacy Schuerman. Hi, Stacy.
Hello, Tiffany. Thanks for
Well,
having me.
it's so good to have you. And I usually ask my guests, where in the world are you?
Uh, well, I am just a few streets over here in Lilydale for now, for a little bit.
I usually ask because I don't actually know, and I definitely know where you are right now, so it feels like a funny question to ask. But yes, we are close physically, um, which is quite a delight. I've loved having you as a neighbor. And today I'm really excited to do something a little experimental. We're going to talk about development circles. And for those who aren't familiar, this is one of the classic ways to learn mediumship. And before we get into the technicalities and what a circle is, Stacey, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and your
Oh,
history with development circles.
fabulous. So I started coming into spiritualist camps, churches, or classes probably about, I don't even know now, time 16 years ago, 15 years ago. To develop my own mediumship, but also to kind of understand more about the spiritualist movement and how this communication. Um, I never like using the so-called dead because I think they're more living than we are. We should call them the so more living instead of, the so dead, the so more living people from beyond. Was fascinated with it because to me it just seems like it's a form of communication, like learning a new language that we could all do. And so I first attended my first circle, oh gosh, in a spiritualist church back in Wisconsin, that was ran by an ordained reverend at the time she was well into her youthful 80s, and but had been a spiritualist minister for just decades upon decades. And so that's where my journey of unfoldment, that she called it an unfoldment circle, Shamil Shamagal development circle, home circle, whatever.
Mhm.
um, and that's how it came to be. And so now currently I am a practicing medium, because that's what I feel like we do, is practice mediumship. And then of course, which led me back to Lilydale, where my partner and I, own the Sacred Grounds Coffee House right inside of Lilydale, and is now made us a permanent part of the community, which is awesome. So I really cannot wait until my move is complete. Look, I feel like I'm like whatever doctor somebody from a movie, to start getting myself into some development circles, unfoldment circles again soon.
Yes, yes. And in person, hopefully here in Lilydale. We used to have so many every week. When I first moved here, there was three or four private and public, like home circles and like a community circles. And with the pandemic, it really, some moved online and there really aren't very many. So it's exciting to think about getting a few more started again.
Absolutely.
And so I started in a circle at Judith Rochester's kind of community circle here in 2018. And then I went to Fellowships of the Spirit, which is more like a very modern approach to learning. So it's more like lectures and demonstrations and classes, and you learn very quickly. But my teacher at Fellowships of the Spirit, Elaine Thomas, learned in a circle, and she said she sat for years. And her teacher, Reverend Wendling, sat in a circle for years with actually Arthur Conan Doyle's wife in over in England. Yes. And so I've read about it in books that everybody learned through circles back in the day. And that's what you did. You just sat there in the dark and the quiet, and you went at that same time every week. And some circles were really strict where you had to wear the same clothing and sit in the same order, like very
Mhm.
particular. And sometimes it would take years before anything would happen for an individual or for a whole group. And now we have these gifts of learning so quickly how to do mediumship because people have really kind of figured it out. Um, but I love still sitting in circle all the time. It is where I experiment and where I practice.
Mhm.
And It's so important, I think, to our culture as well and our community. That's my favorite form of community, sort of sitting in these circles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love to like sitting in the circle just we're so busy at the same time, right? The other side of that pendulum swing is yes, we can learn so quickly and yes, things are being figured out, but then we also don't just sit, just to absorb and experience. Some of us were like me. Sometimes I can tell when I'm not sitting because the rest of my life gets super, super, super busy and almost feels, I don't want to say out of control because I'm always in control, but it can seem very hustle and bustle. And so sitting, like I always say, I love being a battery,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to trance circles or physical circles. I don't want to trance. I don't want to do physical mediumship, but I will be a battery for anybody who needs me. I'll just be this like bursting energy of positivity just to, like you said, see what evolves. And the dedication really of our pioneers to sit when you talk about how strict or how consent. I mean, it was sometimes numerous times a week for numerous hours a week, and it was always totally, totally dedicated.
Mhm.
Come, high water. It was like the post office service, right? They're bringing you spirit, come rain, shine, sleet,
Yes.
snow.
That's funny. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I first started a circle, I was like, I'm gonna be super strict and we're gonna go, and then it was like, that is so unrealistic these days. You just can't, our lives don't work like that anymore. We don't have that kind of continuity and structure where we can go to the same place every week. I can't even sometimes in my own circle, I've had to miss circle sometimes. And I only do mine once a month, and it's like, but just things come up. And so having at least enough dedication to make it when we can and having, things be a little more loose than they used to be, it's still.
It's the evolution of it, right? It's the evolution of a circle, I think, too, because you think about back then when they first started, you have to put your mindset into that time zone, right? Like the historical time zone, where, most electricity didn't exist. So, come dark or come evening, it was, come in from the outside, can't be quilting or doing things around the house because you can't see, and you would all gather around the fire in the parlor or the front room, and it would be that perfect opportunity to just quiet the mind and allow spirit in, and I think to myself, like, yeah, and nowadays that's just not like,
We don't get
no,
a
we
chance to
gotta
do that.
work, like there's not a lot of, just like, if anyone wants to pay for Tiffany and I just to sit around and do circles, we can, give you our Venmo and
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll keep you off your phone for an hour and a half
yeah,
in the total
exactly.
darkness.
The total darkness. Oh, too fun. No, I love it. I love the history of it. And I love to watch the evolution. And I really think we saw a big evolution come COVID.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of people in our world, let's just say, of spiritual development, who never thought they could be done through the internet because you needed that physical energy of each person, sitting in that space, right? And that building of the energy in a specific physical building, it's the only way it could be done. And I think COVID taught us that, oh no, we can all sit in our little homes and still build the energy.
Yep.
I will say it's different though, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Totally different. Well, I shouldn't say totally different. It is very different. And when I'm in person, there's a different, it takes a different energy from me as well. And it's something else when I'm online. And I really see it online when we connect in with each other. It's like a net because you're not sitting in a physical circle. So I imagine my connection with each person and it forms like a net to be in. Um, so it's like got an extra dimension.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that expansion. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I do. I have to say, like, now that we're talking about them, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about all the circles I've sat in and all and how wonderful each experience, even if nothing occurred, was still a beautiful experience because even in that nothingness, there's somethingness, of either getting to know your own self better, like, or getting to feel like when you were saying that expansion, like learning how to kind of, I don't want to, well,
Yeah.
control your energy and say, oh, I'm going to give a lot or I'm going to pull back or I'm going to, there's even in that is amazing. And then if something does occur and a message is given, that's even a whole nother level of,
Yep, exactly. And
spiritual.
because it's presence. You have to be present the whole time. And the number one thing I tell people if they're new to a circle, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about protocol because there's definitely you have to know what you're doing, but um is that we're going to let it be quiet and sitting with in a room of people or even on a Zoom of people and nobody's talking is it takes a different level of presence and comfort. And it's not what we're used to because we have to be quiet in order to connect in. And I love those moments of sitting in circle with a bunch of people and it's just silent waiting to see what's going to happen.
It's a whole form of communication in itself that we just don't practice much anymore.
Yep.
We're either listening to respond or we're talking to engage or we're just kind of looking for that what's the next, at least for me too, because I've noticed like my anxiety as I've gotten older has kind of increased. That's why like going back and sitting in circles are going to be so much important because again, like I've just, not that I'm not in control of my energy because I truly believe we are always in control of ourselves. But I think we sometimes lose uh the how to control it. And so when my anxiety, there's beautiful comfort in just sitting with a friend and absolutely not talking
Mm,
because there's an energetic talking that's happening
yep.
subconsciously. I don't I'm assuming subconscious, probably even sometimes consciously.
Hmm.
That's a communication that's occurring that is just so warming and beautiful that I definitely need more now in my life. Thanks, Tiffany. I feel like I'm in a little session of like, okay, yes, Stacy, return to this.
I love that. And actually, how about we return to it right now and do a little circle with
I love it.
everybody
Okay.
who's listening and watching. And I have a surprise guest I'm going to bring in. My mom is visiting. Mom, do you want to turn on your video? Here she is. Hi,
There
Hi,
she
Mom.
is,
This is my
Mom.
mom, Molly. Welcome. You're still muted, and I'm going to ask you a quick question, and then you can unmute and share. Have you ever sat in a circle before?
I have.
Oh, you have? Please do share.
Well, right now I'm in Lilydale visiting you. And the first time I came here was 1987 with my soon-to-be husband. And this was his house, the one that you live in now. And he'd been coming here he was the third generation. His grandmother had had the house built, or great aunt had had the house built. And so that was the first time I think I was here in Lilydale, but we did circles back in Rochester. Warren was in the Plymouth Spiritualist Church in Rochester, and he had a group that met every week. And that was the first time for sure that I'd ever done it.
I
It was
love
different. It was a big deal.
I guess you must have told me that, and I must have known that, and I just forgot. That's amazing. I love this story.
I love that.
So we're gonna do a little tiny circle of three, and this is um so the fun thing about circles is they're experimental. We can do whatever we want. I'm gonna share with us all here a little bit of protocol for this specific circle. And with the hopes of people listening being able to either start your own circle or join a circle and just get a sense of what it's like. So for those of you who have never been in one or have only been in one and maybe haven't seen what other circles could be like, the general idea is you get together and you know, you quiet, like Stacy and I have been talking about, you get quiet and present, and everybody opens up to see if spirit comes through. And the way I usually do them is I'll do a little opening once we're ready, and you have a really clear delineation between the chatting time, which we've just been doing, and I do in every circle, and then the messages and the connection time. And then we'll do that again at the end. We'll close and then go back to chatting. And today, what I want to do is I'll talk about what's happening with our internal experience after we're done so that everybody gets a chance to hear what it's like for the different roles and as you're sitting in circle. But for this circle, let's open it up. Some circles say only evidential mediumship, or you can, only people you can identify. Some allow guides, some allow anything, earth spirits, extraterrestrials, whatever it is. We'll kind of keep it with whatever comes through today. I'm guessing it'll be a little evidential. We could do a little energy reading and that kind of thing, because I know Stacy's into that. So we'll have it a little looser. But the one thing I also think is important is verbal consent. So if somebody is going to bring in a message, we'll ask the other person, can I bring you a message? And the person receiving is generally quiet, just says yes, no, or I don't know. And then the medium who's bringing the message will make sure verbally to close it and say, okay, and I'll leave that with you, or somehow saying I'm done so that everybody else knows. Then it gets quiet again, so the next medium can bring something in. And so in a circle, I think the important thing to remember is everybody's a medium and everybody's a sitter. And that's why it's so experimental, is because we all get to play all the roles. And while you're not being a medium or sitter, you're being a battery, like Stacy mentioned. You're bringing in your own energy and whatever energy you're bringing through from your connections as you're sitting there. So yeah, that's a quick and dirty version of what a circle is. I mean, we could probably talk about it for many hours, but let's just do it. We'll do a really fairly quick little session, but let's give everybody a moment. I'm going to close my eyes while I open up circle, and I'm going to start to settle into my body and then notice my breath. I like to connect in with myself first before I connect in with anybody or anything else. So I'm going to take a moment and quiet and start to turn my energy internally. And when I feel really connected with myself, I'm going to open up and connect with the other people in the circle here. And I actually envision an energetic connection between each of us. So tonight we have it's not night, but today we have a little triangle because there's 3 of us. And once I feel like my connection with the other people is strong, then I'll open up the circle and invite our teachers, ancestors, protectors, guides, grandmothers, grandfathers, whoever it is who can come in and bring us healing and empowerment, who can speak to us in ways we can understand, and come for the highest and best of those present and those absent today. And with that, I'll open the circle.
Oh, I'm just wondering, Tiffany, if I can speak to Molly, if I may, bring in something that I'm seeing. So I'd like to, I grabbed the connection, so I'd like to hold on to it. And Molly, can I bring you a message?
Yes, thank you.
So I have to say, I'm definitely being made aware of 2 men that step in for you. One is definitely family, because for me, he shows me the symbol of the tree, like an oak tree, which is like a family DNA connection. Now, the other man, however, I feel like is like a high school crush. I know this sounds so funny, but I get kind of giddy when he comes in, of like seeing you again. It's been so long, is the feeling I get. He is dressed casual, unlike your ancestor, dressed more formal. But I want to stick with this guy, and I just have to call him a guy because I just feel like a man or gentleman is too formal for him. But he does bring me back to high school. Like, so I do have to say this. And I'm hearing him say to me, I asked her out, but she said no. Like it was a clear, like, maybe we should just be friends kind of line. I don't feel like it was a yes, I'm gonna go to homecoming with you. It's like, oh, hi Ed, how are you today? I have you in science class, is what he gives me. He does show me to be on the fairly, I would say, average size for a man, maybe right around 5'11, looks to me to be a little more athletic. Uh, mm, I'm being corrected. He was not an athlete. He just was kind of more like, skin. I don't want to say he was skinny, but he wasn't big. He wasn't a big, lots of meat on his bones, he says. I do want to say too, there's something connected to like Pete or Peterson or something like that to maybe help make a connection. He says that he thinks of you fondly is the word he's giving me, and he's laughing because he says, Molly, you're making yourself a life that you've always have wanted. So he's been checking in on you throughout this time period of going, oh, she's always made turns to divert her back to her own happiness. And so he's happy about that for you. Go ahead. I just have to say, like, I just feel like he's cheerleading for you. And he's just like, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna leave again. And I don't know if there's a connection to homecoming, and I don't know if you're gonna have to go back, but I believe like homecoming is this time of year. So I feel like he's saying I check in kind of yearly just to see where she is. I do feel that he passed young, maybe in his mid 20s, maybe right out of high school. I don't feel like he passed in high school, but I feel like maybe right out of high school is when he passed. And then the other gentleman in the more like dress pants, belt, dress shirt, not a suit coat. I feel like that could be held over his shoulder. He feels to me to be more of like a male, almost, I don't know, he doesn't feel to be dad to me, so I don't feel like this is dad. I feel like this is somebody kind of off who wouldn't have had a long time with you here in the earth plane, but nonetheless is family on dad's side. I feel there's a connecting month to January with him is all I'm getting. And honestly, Molly, I want to give you more, but I feel like he's just letting me know he's there, like there's no, unlike chatty guy over here. He's a lot less, yeah. And I will say, just to complete, because then I'll feel complete, just to say, I love you look like a waterfall to me, kind of like this blue going down with like moss behind it a little bit. So your blue's kind of moving softly. I will say there's a little excitement though, because you're not a creek of water, right? You're a waterfall of water. So right now you're coming into a very exciting point. Within your life, these next few weeks or months are going to just be kind of active and fun and laughing. But I also feel like they're extremely healing too, because the green for me is a healing color. And so you're that beautiful flowing moss. So I feel like the healing is finally coming in and being accepted and just, like you're really getting into the flow, right? So no more stagnant puddle, big waterfall moving into the flow. So I like to leave all of that with you. If that is okay, that is what I felt. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Stacy. Wow.
Lots of info. Feels
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to really have to think about those men.
good. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe we should close circle and then talk about this a little bit. So we'll all take a moment and start to draw our energy back in from the spirit realm into our circle of living humans, saying thank you to those who came through and who are around for us during that brief connection, knowing that the connection is always there to be opened again in the future. And it's strengthened each time we open it and close it again. And then we can each withdraw from each other, coming back into our physical bodies, connecting with ourselves. I just want to take a moment to thank both of you for being here and for all those who are there energetically listening and watching. And we can each take a moment to thank ourselves for showing up, to practice and to learn. And when we're ready, we can come back and let's talk a little bit about what just happened for all of us. So I'm going to start because I was the battery, and I want to share what it's like for me. And it's interesting. Of course, I know tons about my mom. And this often happens in circle is you're sitting with people that you know, and so you're thinking about who it might be. And it's the same thing when I'm getting a message. I'm like, who is this? Does this fit? Like I tend to be in a really rational mindset, and it always takes me a lot of effort to step back out of that and just be present. Because especially in circle, if you're sitting thinking, you're not ready to bring in a message. And so I just want to share as the person listening and present. That's what I was doing, is like trying to remember, go back into a meditative state so I can receive, instead of sitting and thinking, like checking who it could be. Oh, this person, this person. So next I want to, I'm trying to decide who I want to share their experience first. I think, Stacy, can you share first, and then we'll hear from my mom of what it was like for her getting the message.
Sure, absolutely. So for me, I too, like you, get into that attunement state. That's the word that was used by my old teacher,
Great
is
work.
that we have to attune to the spirit world, or the energy of the spirit world, which tends to be a higher frequency, a calmer frequency than our physical world. And so I attune there, and I always ask, and here's the thing, I don't attune until the circle has been opened and the prayer or the connection has been said. Because if I would have attuned prior to, I would have held on to that information. Like I would have to hold on to information. And what do? Tiffany said it best. There is no clear thinking in mediumship development. It's claircognizance. It's a knowing. It's not a thinking. And those two are entirely different. So I open up, and I'm a little bit clairvoyant so I see things first, and I have learned not to say they're my imagination when I'm opened in a circle. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it accurate. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it right. And it might mean I might. I just allow that energy to flow. So I looked at Molly, closed my eyes, and then boom, like I literally said, okay, who's there for her? And I see this man, and so I start with who's giving me the most connection, who can I feel as if I can connect to stronger to get more information. And then I'm a giver, just give it. Now I do believe in sometimes asking questions, and I never asked Molly because I really felt my connection was at least strong enough that I just wanted to give without trying to be a filter, even though I know mediums are sometimes filters. But I feel like if I stop and say, can you recognize this? If she says no to me, I'm going to automatically go into my thinking brain. Well, what did I get wrong? And again, I don't. And so I feel like circles are the perfect place to be completely wrong or completely right, so in the development. So I just let it kind of flow and go. And I notice that if I start thinking, then I try to, usually I feel like that's the time where my message is coming to an end, because I'm getting too involved or too invested in what is going on.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I love that.
I do want to say I love, love, love the fact that you ask for permission, and that you do an opening. Can I bring you a message? And I leave you with that, because it's very important to help so people aren't in spirit constantly, again, we are in control. So I just wanted to say yay to that, Tiffany. I love hearing that. I'll be quiet now.
Oh, I love that. And what you said, there's a few things I want to call attention to. And what you said, how when I'm in circle, I'm not imagining. And that is so well put because that's what we're doing. We're opening up a space. And the rest of the time, our minds are imagining lots of things. And we're saying this is the space that we are using our facility of imagination to help spirit and other beings bring us information. So it's like a divination in that sense of, you ask a question and you pull a card or, you flip a coin or whatever it is, like this is the space to get that answer. And I love that you bring that up because that's what circle's for. And I also agree that, if you're doing a reading for somebody or demonstration, you have to ask and get, feedback as you're going, but this is the time to experiment, exactly like you said. Get it wrong. This is, when I'm in circle, I do the same thing. I'm just like, let's just give it. We're just going to say, and sometimes it's only a tiny bit, and then the other person can help and you can kind of figure it out together. Um, but it was so, thank you so much for sharing what was going on over there with you. And then, um, Mom, I'll mute myself in a minute so you can talk. And I just want to ask what was going on for you as you're sitting there receiving information, sitting in the circle, and what kind of state were you in and what was happening for you internally?
It's so interesting. Well, I felt rather emotional at first because I'm just feeling emotional anyway right now because I have come back here for healing. Um, and so the process in my mind was, a person would pop in based on the information Stacy gave me. But I was glad you didn't ask questions because I asked them internally, and that was just a gut. I haven't done this very often. I've only sat in a few circles, and that was many, many years ago. Um, so I would ask, like, no, that's not quite right. That's not quite right. And then you said Pete or Peter. And what's really strange is some of the information was not correct to me, and that was high school. But lately, and it's happened all through my entire life since I met him in first grade, Peter Niederhofer. And I will look up and see if he's passed. But just last week, I got a message from him. I was walking with my other daughter along the road, and I started talking about him. And it's so funny. And there's a picture of me in first grade, and he and I are on these we're against the poles, and then the rest of the class is all around us. And I moved a lot as a kid, and so I never really had any strong connections that I maintained throughout my entire childhood. But he's always stayed with me in my heart and in my head for some reason. Um, so that was really interesting. And once you said that, and then I knew, oh yeah, you're not crazy. This is a message from that person, and I have always felt that. So that was really amazing and unexpected. And then the other person, I was really having a hard time figuring out who that was also. And then it came through that I really think it's my cousin Hugh, who Tiffany has met more than once, but I've only met once. And the way that you described him was just perfect, and that's exactly what he would do. He would stay back, but say, "No, I'm here. I'm here."
Hmm.
So that was really interesting, and I've been thinking a lot about him lately too. So thank you for that. And then yes, I'm definitely the waterfall and the moss. That was really right on as well.
Oh, that's so cool. I love um hearing the inner workings of what's going on and because and it's I really feel like all of this has been a very um great example like who knows what's going to happen when we just try this um but this is so how it goes of like you think it's one thing and then you ask internally like amazing you remembered to do that mom like asking internally and then getting that information and it's these little bits and pieces and these multiple people I don't know I love hearing everybody's experience yeah do anybody have anything else you want to share about how that was
Well, I guess for me, like again, the idea of these unfoldment development circles is to just learn more about yourself and then learn how to engage with both the spirit world and the physical world in being that, funnel for the middle. Like I think it's, as your mom was talking about, like, okay, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Because like timelines to me are really ironic because it's very human, right? These timelines. But then we know from what we receive in the spirit world, like time doesn't really exist. But then I loved that I was brave enough to say the name I was hearing because then it like helped make the dots connect better. And then listening, as a medium, which we all are, because like you said, we're all mediums, we're all receivers, we're all givers. But it's good to hear the feedback me because not that the connection is strong anymore, I close that. But I can go back and say, okay, when I saw that vision, because like of cousin, like she said, cousin Hugh or something, and I knew he wasn't close in the family line, like dad or grandfather, because he seemed to be just kind of standing out here, but yet I knew he was family. So it helps me develop more for in the future. I can ask spirit to better, like, maybe cousins will always be kind of here for me. And then I can try that again. You have to be okay to being wrong.
Yes.
And I'm glad that I didn't. Molly, if you would have said to me, oh, everything was 100% accurate, I probably would have been disappointed because in my real life, I'm logical. And I remember one of my very first teachers, Janet No Havoc, right? She's like, I remember idolizing her, thinking, oh my God, she's like an amazing, and she is an amazing medium, do not get me wrong. But she said in class, if I'm 70% accurate, I'm doing a good job. And I thought, what? And so I remember that. I just don't think you're going to get everything, nail on the head. And that's good to help build our confidence too, is being able to take that, okay, I was wrong on that. And, that's important, I think, in development because otherwise, so many people I see them get too frustrated. Well, I can't do it. I got everything wrong. Well, yes, so do all of us. Let's try it again. Let's keep going back.
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest values of Circle is you get a chance to talk to the
Yeah.
person and validate. And I find when I get that validation, whether it's positive or negative, like, yes, that was right, or no, that wasn't right, like I can match that back with the information. Again, like you said, the connection is closed, but I can remember what it was that came through and be like, oh, that's why it was a little hazy or wavy, or oh, I put that in there. I interpreted that. That's why, it was not exactly what was meant. So I agree that having that dialogue after is so important for development. And that's why no matter how many classes and books and all the things you do, if you're not sitting with other humans and talking about how it works, it's really hard to learn what's happening internally and how to be able to say it out loud.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, this was so
Fun.
fun. Thank you both for jumping in and doing an experimental recorded circle. I'm just so grateful that we could try this out, and getting to be with both of you is, of course, very special to me.
Always fun. Always fun. It was nice to meet you too. Tiffany's mom, but I know your name is Molly. That's how we
Thank you. Let's do it again.
Okay.
absolutely. Now that we're both in all the same towns, watch out.
Yeah, I think it's a learning process for everyone there, but it's also we all have to take risks in a circle to receive and
Yeah.
to speak out what you're receiving. So thanks, Tiffany, and it's great to meet you, Stacy.
Yeah, great to meet you. Love this.
Me too. Thanks,
Tiffany, you're
everybody.
going to have like part 2, 3, 4, and 5 of how to develop circles because I cannot say enough to any of your listeners. Just start developing, sitting in a circle. And two people do make a circle.
Yep,
Like you don't have to have a,
that's right.
yeah. So I can see more parts coming. I'll be listening in, Tiffany.
Great. Yes, we'll have more. Thank you all. Bye.